Welcome to Note Lab Mode.
Great to be here.
Today, we are diving into some really interesting research looking at the AI transformation that's expected, well, pretty soon over the next 3 to 5 years. We're talking roughly 2025 to 2030.
Yeah, it's a time frame everyone's buzzing about, and this research gives us a solid framework to think about what might actually happen, not just speculation.
Absolutely. And our mission with this episode is really to unpack all of that research, pull out the most important insights, the key nuggets, really, to help you understand what this future could look like for your job, for the economy, and maybe where the opportunities lie.
Think of it as trying to get a clear picture, getting informed on what's potentially just around the corner for all of us.
Exactly. And this episode of Note Lab Mode is brought to you by CloutFit.ai. That's CLOUTFIT.ai.
Clofit.ai, got it.
Yeah, CloutFit.ai connects influencer outfits directly to your product inventory, so it makes their content instantly shoppable, driving more sales for you and higher order value. You can visit CloutFit.ai to learn more.
Sounds pretty useful for retailers.
Definitely. Okay, let's jump into what this research has uncovered. Where should we start?
Well, one of the biggest areas, probably the one most people worry about, is the job market. And the research is pretty clear. AI is set to fundamentally reshape things. They call it a profound restructuring.
Right, involving both job losses and job creation. It's not just one side of the coin.
Exactly. While lots of headlines focus on the displacement, which is definitely happening, the research really emphasizes transformation more than total destruction.
So it's changing the shape of work, not just eliminating it wholesale.
Precisely. The World Economic Forum, for instance, predicts a net loss globally of about 14 million jobs by 2027. Now that sounds like a lot,
That sounds concerning, yeah.
but it's the result of 83 million jobs being displaced while 69 million new ones are created. That points to a massive amount of churn, a huge reshuffling.
Okay, so significant change, but maybe not the apocalypse, some headlines suggest. Which jobs does the research say are most vulnerable?
Consistently, it points to roles that are routine, repetitive, and heavily based on analyzing sort of predictable data.
Makes sense. The stuff AI is getting really good at.
Exactly. Specific examples mentioned are things like data entry clerks, administrative secretaries, accounting clerks. Those seem to be facing the fastest declines.
Okay.
But it goes beyond that. Roles like claims adjusters, examiners, investigators, they could see maybe a 4.4% decline by 2032. Insurance appraisers, even steeper, maybe 9.2% decrease.
Wow.
Medical transcriptionists, around 4.7% decline. Customer service reps, about 5%. The common thread seems to be AI's growing ability to process information and automate communications in those areas, directly stepping in for human labor.
Okay, now here's something I found really interesting in the research, and it feels like a big shift from past automation waves.
What's that?
The impact on white-collar, entry-level jobs. That seems new. One AI CEO quoted in the research actually warns that AI could replace up to half of all entry-level jobs.
Half. That's huge.
Yeah, and potentially drive U.S. unemployment as high as 20% in the next 1 to 5 years. Now, that's a prediction, but the research also notes a recent 27.5% drop in entry-level job postings globally.
Okay, so there might be some early signs already. That 27.5% drop, wow, it suggests the current data might just be the tip of the iceberg.
Right, and analysis cited from Bloomberg kind of backs this up. It showed AI could automate over 50% of the tasks for roles like market research analysts, 53% specifically, and sales reps, a huge 67%.
But much less for their managers, interestingly. Only 9% and 21% respectively.
Exactly, really highlights that disproportionate impact on those starting their careers.
And are employers seeing this? Feeling the pressure?
Seems like it. The WEF Future of Jobs report found 40% of employers globally expect some workforce reduction where AI automates tasks.
40%, that's significant.
And that same AI CEO noted about 40% of other CEOs are privately considering reductions too. The research also points to places like India, where some predict maybe 40–50% of white-collar IT and BPO jobs could vanish. That's a massive challenge for specific regions.
Okay, so let's try to pull this together. Looking at the job market over the next, say, 3 to 5 years, what are the main takeaways from all this research?
Well, first, it seems like the overwhelming message is this massive reallocation and transformation. It's not total job disappearance. That net loss number, the 14 million, it's actually a pretty small fraction of the global workforce when you think about it. It highlights a really dynamic market where jobs are just fundamentally changing.
Right. It's less about jobs vanishing entirely and more about the job descriptions themselves being rewritten by AI.
Yeah, exactly. Second big point seems to be the uneven impact. It's hitting those entry-level white-collar jobs really hard.
And that's the critical shift, isn't it? Past automation was more focused on manufacturing blue-collar roles. This is different.
Totally different. And it raises this serious concern about a potential talent pipeline problem.
hmm
If those first jobs, those stepping stones, start shrinking, how do people get the experience to move up?
That's a really crucial question. Where do careers start if those doors narrow?
hmm And the final point.
It seems to be about skills. This rapid displacement, combined with new roles emerging, is just going to make skill gaps worse. The research found employers expect 39% of core skills will change by 2030.
39%.
And maybe even more dramatic, research cited from LinkedIn suggests that by 2030, 70% of the skills used in most jobs will change.
70. Okay, that's huge.
It really connects job displacement directly to this urgent, accelerating need for new skills. Current skills might become obsolete much faster than we're used to.
Wow, okay, that 70% figure is sobering. But let's look at the flip side. AI isn't just taking away. The research also talks a lot about job creation and augmentation, right?
Oh, absolutely. AI is also framed as a powerful engine for new kinds of jobs, especially, within its own field.
AI specialists.
Exactly. The WEF report highlights fast-growing roles like AI and machine learning specialists, but also sustainability specialists, business intelligence analysts, information security analysts roles often enhanced by AI. LinkedIn data shows a huge surge in demand for AI specialists, data scientists, ML engineers.
And some projections are actually net positive for jobs.
Yes. Gartner analysis projects a net positive employment impact from AI overall. And broader trends mentioned in the research point to a potential net growth of 78 million jobs globally by 2030.
78 million net growth.
That's about 7% of total employment. Technology, broadly, is projected to create 11 million new jobs while displacing 9 million, so still a positive net effect there. And think about this. The research notes over 10% of professionals today are in job titles that didn't even exist back in 2000, like AI engineer or prompt engineer.
That's a great point. Things change fast.
So the pace of skill change is high. We covered that.
Yeah.
Tech skills, AI, big data, cybersecurity, they seem absolutely critical for the next 5 years or so.
But it's not just creating brand new job titles, is it? A big theme seems to be AI augmenting the jobs people already do, making them better, more capable.
This could be the most transformative part, actually. Generative AI, especially, might allow employees with less specialized training to perform tasks that used to require, like, an expert level of knowledge.
How so? Give me an example.
Well, think about how it might assist accounting clerks with analysis, or nurses with initial assessments, or teaching assistants with creating personalized learning materials. It could free up the human experts for the higher-level stuff AI can't touch.
And we're already seeing examples of this collaboration happening now.
We are. The research points to radiologists using AI for faster, more accurate cancer detection. Financial analysts partnering with AI to sift through vast market data, spotting trends humans might miss.
Artists and musicians, too.
Yeah, AI assisting in composition or generating visual concepts. In manufacturing, you have cobots, collaborative robots working alongside humans, sometimes cutting production time by up to 50%. Intelligent tutoring systems, personalizing education, allowing teachers to focus more on mentoring and complex problem solving with students.
And you mentioned Microsoft's Copilot earlier. That fits here, too.
Definitely. It's evolving into what they call an agentic engine, meaning it can increasingly understand your goals and execute multi-step tasks more autonomously. This empowers employees in data analysis, coding, and critically, it frees up expert teams from tedious, low-value, cross-functional work.
So in this kind of AI-augmented world, what skills does the research say become really crucial for humans, the irreplaceable ones?
The research is pretty consistent here. It boils down to human-centric skills AI just can't replicate. Things like adaptability, absolutely key given the pace of change. Creativity and innovation AI might actually free up human capacity for this, not replace it.
Okay.
Critical thinking and complex problem-solving, navigating nuance, ambiguity, unstructured situations. People skills and emotional intelligence EQ is vital for trust, leadership, customer relationships. Algorithms aren't great at empathy.
No, not yet anyway.
And finally, tech savviness. Not necessarily becoming a coder, but understanding how to effectively use and partner with AI tools. That's becoming a baseline skill.
Okay, so let's connect the dots on this creation and augmentation side. What are the core takeaways here?
First, the really consistent theme is AI as a kind of super assistant. It's fundamentally augmenting human capabilities. For businesses, the main focus in the next 3 to 5 years seems to be less about mass replacement and more about integrating AI to make their human workforce significantly more productive.
Right, multiplying what people can do.
Exactly. Second, as AI handles more routine, predictable tasks, the demand in the labor market shifts decisively towards those uniquely human skills we just listed.
Hmm.
Creativity, nuanced thinking, EQ, complex problem solving, communication. That's the new premium in the job market.
The stuff that makes us, well, human.
Pretty much.
Well,
And finally, given that staggering 70% skill change projection by 2030, lifelong learning isn't just a buzzword anymore. It becomes a strategic necessity for individuals, for companies.
traditional education won't cut it alone.
Probably not. Education systems, corporate training, they need to pivot hard towards fostering those future-proof human capabilities and that essential tech savviness, knowing how to wield the AI tools effectively.
Okay. Now, let's circle back quickly to unemployment forecasts, because the research shows a pretty wide range of views, right?
Yeah.
Reflecting all this uncertainty. We mentioned that one CEO warning about potentially 20% U.S. unemployment in 1 to 5 years, linked to that entry-level squeeze.
Yeah, that's definitely one end of the spectrum. It highlights a potential worst-case scenario if the disruption is very fast and very deep, especially in those entry roles.
Right.
But the research also points out that actual current business adoption of AI for fundamentally restructuring work in the US is still quite low. It was around 5.4% of businesses back in February 2024.
Only 5.4%. That seems low.
It does, and widespread users say over 40% of companies using AI meaningfully is projected by some to take potentially over a decade. So that suggests a really rapid economy-wide job collapse within the next 3 through 5 years might be less likely than a more targeted gradual transformation.
And those global forecasts, like the WEF's net 14 million loss, significant, but not 20% across the board mass unemployment.
Right. And McKinsey estimated about 25% of work hours could be automated by 2030, which is important. It's automating tasks within jobs, not necessarily eliminating 25% of all jobs outright.
There's a more conservative view, too.
Yeah, research cited from an MIT professor suggests maybe only a modest effect on U.S. GDP and employment over the next decade. Their estimate is that only about 5% of tasks will be profitably automated for replacement within 10 years.
Why so low?
The argument is that current AI use isn't primarily focused on replacing workers yet, and it often tackles easy-to-learn tasks that don't fundamentally change the labor landscape immediately.
And the impact will likely vary a lot by region.
Hugely. Based on adoption speed, demographics, government policies, China might actually need automation because of its declining workforce population. India, as we mentioned, faces that white-collar IP threat. Japan has slower AI adoption, but also super low unemployment. It's complex.
So the takeaway on unemployment seems to be it's uncertain, but maybe the immediate crash isn't the most likely scenario in the next few years.
The research seems to suggest the immediate macroeconomic impact on overall employment, say in the next 3 to 5 years, might be less disruptive than the most alarmist predictions, primarily because businesses seem focused on task augmentation first, and there are real adjustment costs.
Reaning.
The significant investment needed, the time for infrastructure build-out, retraining staff, all that tempers the short-term gains and slows down how quickly AI gets adopted everywhere. It's this productivity paradox or diffusion lag you often see with big new technologies. The benefits take time to really show up in the aggregate numbers.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's shift gears then and look at the broader macroeconomic consequences. If AI does boost productivity, how does that affect things like GDP growth, inflation, maybe interest rates?
This is where the research gets pretty consistent again. The main economic lever AI pulls is boosting labor productivity. When AI automates tasks and makes humans more efficient, businesses produce more with the same or fewer inputs. That enhanced efficiency is a fundamental driver of economic expansion.
And the potential numbers are big.
Potentially, yes. Goldman Sachs estimated something like a 15% increase in labor productivity if generative AI automates just a quarter of total work tasks.
15% increase in productivity. What does that mean for GDP?
Well, that level of productivity gain could translate into a cumulative increase of maybe up to 0.9% in U.S. GDP over that period. And beyond just labor, AI could also boost total factor productivity, basically. How efficiently we use all inputs, capital, and labor, maybe adding another 0.5% cumulatively in the short term, especially if AI speeds up things like R&D.
And globally.
The global projections are even more eye-popping. PwC research estimates AI could make global GDP up to 14% higher by 2030.
14% higher. That's huge. What's the dollar figure on that?
It translates to about $15.7 trillion added to the global economy. And interestingly, they see this growth coming from two places. About 55% from those productivity gains we talked about,
Okay.
and the other 45% from increased consumer demand. Basically, new, personalized, higher quality products and services enabled by AI actually stimulate more spending.
So it's not just making things cheaper, it's creating new things people want to buy.
Exactly. Regionally, China and North America are expected to capture the lion's share of that potential global impact, almost 70% between them.
But we should remember the more conservative view, too.
Right, like that MIT professor forecasting a more modest, maybe 1% US GDP increase over 10 years, arguing the current focus on simpler tasks won't unlock those massive aggregate gains just yet.
Still, even if it takes time, early adopters are seeing benefits now.
Seems so. Research points to small and medium businesses using generative AI reporting revenue increases over 10%. Companies identifying as AI leaders show revenue growth about 1.5 times faster than their peers. The potential is clearly there.
So, summarizing the core economic takeaways here.
First, AI's primary impact is boosting productivity, which drives GDP growth. That's the main story.
More efficient work equals more economic output. Makes sense.
Second, the full realization of these benefits in the short to medium term, say the next 3-5 years, might be slower than some hype suggests due to that adoption lag and the real adjustment costs for businesses.
It takes time and money to implement properly.
Right. And finally, the growth isn't just about cost cutting. A huge part of the story is AI enabling totally new, personalized products and services that actually stimulate new consumer demand. It's value creation, not just efficiency.
Okay, now what about inflation and interest rates? The research touches on that too.
It does. One forecast mentioned from EY anticipates a modest positive impact on inflation, maybe in the range of zero point 0.1 to 0.25 percentage points in most places, potentially a bit higher in Central and Eastern Europe.
Hold on, positive impact. You mean AI makes inflation higher? That seems backward for a productivity tool.
It does seem counterintuitive at first glance. It's a great question. While AI should make production cheaper over the long run, which is disinflationary,
Right.
the massive investment needed upfront is the key. Think about all the powerful hardware GPUs, servers, the complex software, and crucially, the significant energy needed to train and run these AI models. Building all that infrastructure creates a huge surge in demand for those specific components, materials, and even energy itself.
Ah, so the build-out phase creates its own demand pressure.
Exactly. And at least initially, that spike in demand slightly outweighs the supply-side benefits from productivity gains, leading to that modest upward nudge on inflation.
Okay, that makes more sense. What about interest rates then?
There, AI is projected to have a stronger upward influence, maybe pushing rates 0.5 to 1.1 percentage points higher in some regions, according to that same EY research.
Why upward pressure on rates?
This is more of a structural economic effect.
Uh-huh.
Basically, higher productivity means that investing capital, whether it's in AI systems, new factories using AI, whatever, offers a potentially higher return. This increased potential return encourages more overall investment demand across the economy. And higher investment demand structurally pushes up the natural rate of interest, the theoretical rate that balances savings and investment.
Interesting. And the research even mentioned central banks starting to use AI themselves.
Yeah, the Czech National Bank, for example, is exploring using large language models for inflation forecasting. It offers a purely data-driven perspective, potentially independent of traditional economic theories, could lead to more adaptive policy.
It challenges too.
Definitely. The research acknowledges the black box problem. Sometimes it's hard to know why the AI reached a certain forecast, which is tricky for policymakers who need to explain their decisions.
So, quick summary on inflation and interest rates from the research.
Okay. 1, the huge investment needed for AI infrastructure creates some demand-side inflationary pressure, pushing inflation modestly higher initially. 2, higher productivity and the resulting investment boom structurally push natural interest rates upward. And 3, AI is starting to change how economic forecasting itself is done, which brings both opportunities and new challenges around interpretability for central banks.
Got it. Beyond those big macro numbers, AI is also having a profound impact on consumer behavior and markets. The research really digs into this.
Oh, yeah. This is where the economic shifts become really tangible for businesses and for you as a consumer. The research highlights how AI is fundamentally reshaping how we shop, what we expect, how companies interact with us.
Oh,
By decoding our behavior, predicting trends, and enabling hyper-personalization on a scale we've never seen before. This affects everything: e-commerce, physical retail, operations, inventory, the whole customer journey.
hyper-personalization feels like the key word there.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about Amazon's recommendation engine. It analyzes billions of data points to suggest things you might like, and the research says it's responsible for driving a massive 35% of their sales.
35%. Just from recommendations.
Yeah. Or Netflix and Spotify curating content just for you. Sephora offering virtual makeup try-ons using AI. Nike using data to help design customized footwear. Businesses are using AI to tailor offerings, predict demand much more accurately, optimize their inventory.
And use real-time insights.
Exactly. Analyzing big data allows them to adapt strategies super quickly, boosting conversion rates and ROI. Things like dynamic pricing, like Uber surge pricing, or airline tickets changing based on demand, and even individual browsing behavior that's AI at work in consumer markets. It can also reduce friction, making it easier and faster to buy things.
And the overall impact on consumer-facing sectors looks pretty big, according to the research.
Huge potential. Retail could see its economic potential jump from $400 billion to $800 billion. Transport and logistics, maybe $400 billion to $500 billion. Consumer packaged goods, $200 billion up to $500 billion, potentially by the end of the decade. And broad services, healthcare, education, public services, recreation, could see a massive 21% GDP increase by 2030, largely driven by AI applications improving those services.
Okay, so what does this all mean for consumer markets in the next, say, 3-5 years? What should businesses and consumers expect?
Well, first, expect a really profound shift towards what the research calls a hyper-personalization economy. Customer expectations are changing rapidly. If you're a business, having a robust personalization strategy is becoming table stakes to compete.
If you're not tailoring the experience, you're basically falling behind.
Pretty much. Second, the research points out a potential tension here. While things like hyper-personalization and dynamic pricing are great for business efficiency and potentially revenue,
There's a but.
there's a but. They could face consumer backlash if people feel it's manipulative, unfair, or creepy. Managing that perception and maintaining trust is going to be crucial for brands.
And underpinning all of this personalization is data.
Reddit, it's absolutely everything. It's the core competitive advantage. The research literally calls it the lifeblood of AI. Companies that can effectively collect, manage, secure, and leverage vast data sets for personalization, for forecasting, for optimizing everything, they're the ones set to win in this evolving landscape.
Okay, so huge opportunities, major shifts. But the research also flagged some significant concerns about inequality, doesn't it?
Yes, this is a really critical societal challenge that comes up repeatedly, particularly in analysis from the IMF cited in the research. There's a real worry that as AI automates tasks and boosts the productivity of capital, the share of national income going to labor might actually decline.
Meaning workers get a smaller piece of the economic pie?
Potentially, yes. At the same time, dominant firms that really nail AI could gain huge market power and earn what economists sometimes call monopoly rents, basically, outsized profits, because their AI advantage is hard for others to replicate.
And history suggests tech shifts can worsen inequality.
Often, yes. Past technological innovations have frequently increased inequality, and the concern is AI could amplify this trend. The research also notes potential disproportionate impacts on specific groups, like maybe low-educated women whose jobs might be more susceptible to automation.
This potential for widening gaps leads to discussions about solutions, like universal basic income, UBI. The research mentions this.
It does. It notes that some prominent figures in the AI world, people like Elon Musk or Sam Altman, have actually advocated for UBI. Their argument is it could be a way to address the potential job disruption and distribute some of the vast wealth generated by AI, providing a safety net for people while they adapt.
How would it be funded? Does the research touch on that?
It mentions various ideas that get floated. Specific taxes on automation or robots, carbon taxes, increases in broad consumption taxes like VAT, or higher corporate profit taxes specifically targeting those AI-driven gains.
But UBI isn't presented as a simple fix, right? There are arguments against it too.
Oh, definitely. The research highlights major criticisms. The immense cost is one: where does the money actually come from? Potential negative impacts on people's motivation to work, the risk that UBI just ends up subsidizing employers paying low wages, questions about social acceptance, and critically, whether it might actually exacerbate inequality if poorly implemented, maybe justifying even greater disparities between the AI winners and everyone else getting a basic payment.
So UBI is part of the conversation, but it's complex and controversial. What other policy approaches does the research emphasize?
Beyond UBI, there's a strong emphasis on robust fiscal policies and, critically, massive investment in reskilling and adaptation. The IMF calls for strengthening social safety nets, making education and training systems much more adaptive, fostering lifelong learning, promoting apprenticeships.
What about government's role?
Governments are urged to invest in the necessary computing infrastructure, create agile regulations that can keep up with AI's pace, and ensure broader access to data to fuel innovation, not just let it be hoarded by a few giants. A skills-first approach to hiring and workforce development is seen as vital.
But retraining is hard.
The research acknowledges that. Evidence on how effective large-scale worker retraining programs were during past tech shifts is, well, mixed. It highlights that this is a really tough challenge.
And there's talk about addressing inequality before it happens. Pre-distribution.
Yeah, that's another angle discussed.
Yeah.
Looking at strategies to shape the initial distribution of wealth and income rather than just redistributing after the fact. Things like progressive taxation, reforms to inheritance tax, ensuring universal access to truly high-quality education and healthcare. Even more novel ideas like universal basic capital, distributing ownership of wealth-generating assets, not just income, and maybe fairer tax systems that don't overly incentivize replacing humans with machines.
Okay, so summing up the research on inequality.
Key takeaways seem to be: 1. AI carries a significant risk of making inequality worse, shifting income from labor to capital and potentially creating monopolies. This is flagged as a major societal challenge we need to address proactively.
It's not a side issue.
Not at all. 2, there was a big debate about whether UBI is enough or if we need deeper pre-distribution strategies to tackle the root causes of wealth concentration. Some worry UBI might just put a Band-Aid on the problem or even justify bigger gaps.
And 3.
Ultimately, the research suggests we need a comprehensive, agile policy toolkit, not just one magic bullet. It'll likely involve a mix of tax reform, stronger social safety nets, continuous education and reskilling, and maybe exploring new ways to distribute the ownership and benefits of this incredibly productive technology more broadly and equitably.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears one last time and end on the opportunities. Because amid all the disruption, the research makes it crystal clear that AI is creating immense new possibilities, especially for businesses and startup founders.
Absolutely. It's framed not just as a disruptor, but as a foundational horizontal technology that will permeate and boost basically all sectors of the economy. The projection mentioned is AI increasing GDP by at least 10% by 2030 across the board. Adopting AI isn't just an option anymore, it's rapidly becoming a competitive necessity.
Which sectors does the research see having the biggest growth potential thanks to AI?
Several stand out. Information and communication is projected for strong growth, maybe 4.8% annually with AI versus 3.4% without. Manufacturing gets a big boost, potentially growing 4.4% with AI compared to 2.3% without. That sector gains massively from productivity improvements, think predictive maintenance, smarter supply chains, advanced robotics.
Finance, too, you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, finance could grow 4.3% with AI versus 2.4% without, seeing quick wins from things like fraud detection, better risk management, and all that customer personalization we talked about.
What about sectors that are more labor-intensive?
Sectors like retail, wholesale, accommodation, and food services are expected to see a really large GDP increase, maybe 15% by 2030. They benefit hugely from transforming the customer experience recommendation engines, optimizing inventory, personalized service.
And those broad services industries, healthcare, education, public services.
They're projected for perhaps the most substantial growth overall, maybe a 21% GDP increase by 2030. AI is set to revolutionize diagnostics and personalized medicine and healthcare, enable truly personalized learning and education, power virtual assistants. The potential impact there is enormous. Transport and logistics could add $400–500 billion in economic activity globally through route optimization, autonomous vehicles, warehouse automation, and so on.
So how should we interpret all this in terms of where the opportunities lie?
Well, first, it reinforces that AI transforms all sectors. Integration is becoming critical for competitiveness, period. Second, different sectors benefit in slightly different ways. Capital-intensive ones like manufacturing get huge productivity gains. Consumer and service sectors often benefit more from the personalization and improved product quality AI enables.
And again, data.
Data remains absolutely central. Industries that already have large structured data sets, think healthcare records, financial transactions, retail purchase histories, they are naturally in the best position to leverage AI effectively. Data really is the lifeblood of AI, as the research puts it. Companies in those sectors, or startups providing services to help them unlock that data value, have a significant head start.
The research also talks about new kinds of businesses emerging AI-native models, not just adding AI features, but building the whole business around AI.
Exactly. These are businesses where AI isn't just a tool they use, it's the fundamental core. If you remove the AI, the business model would break. They represent a new paradigm, often disrupting traditional software as a service models.
What are some examples?
Things like data as a service companies, maybe like Palantir, subscription AI services like Grammarly, AI-powered marketplaces like Amazon's, predictive analytics platforms built into other software like Salesforce Einstein, products designed from the ground up to be autonomous, like Tesla's approach, businesses built entirely around hyper-personalization, like Spotify's music recommendations.
And this idea of AI agents seems really disruptive, especially for services.
Yes, AI agents designed to understand goals and take actions autonomously could fundamentally change how value is delivered, especially in SaaS. Instead of just providing software tools, they perform the task. The research mentions companies like Salesforce, ServiceNow, even startups like Sierra exploring outcome-based pricing for these agents. You pay for the result, the resolved IT ticket, the closed sales lead, not just the software license.
That's a big shift.
It is. We're also seeing specialized AI solutions emerge, like Synthesia for AI video generation or AI-powered personal fitness coaching, focused vertical applications.
So for businesses and founders navigating this, what are the key shifts to understand?
Well, first, AI enables potentially unprecedented capital efficiency and speed for startups. You can build powerful automated products with leaner teams, maybe achieve product market fit with less funding, bootstrap for longer, and potentially negotiate better terms with VCs because you need less capital to scale.
Doing more with less.
Yeah.
That's a game changer for startups.
It really could be. Second, the research suggests the most successful startups aren't just focused on automation, they're leveraging AI to empower their employees, augmenting human capabilities to let people focus on higher value tasks.
Implementation again.
Yes. And finally, because powerful general AI models are becoming more accessible through APIs and open source, the real opportunity for startups might be in building specialized AI-driven solutions for very specific industry pain points, what's often called vertical AI, going deep in one area rather than trying to build another general LLM wrapper.
The research also pulls lessons from the strategies of the big AI leaders: OpenAI, Google DeepMind, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, Anthropic. What can we learn from how they're playing the game?
Several clear themes emerge. OpenAI's success combines top-tier research with crucial data access, key partnerships, and a relentless focus on real-world applications, while also trying to navigate the ethics. Google DeepMind is very research-first, deeply integrating its breakthroughs into Google's massive infrastructure, tackling huge scientific challenges, and generating a ton of intellectual property.
NVIDIA provides the picks and shovels, the GPUs.
Right, the essential hardware. But their strategic genius is their algorithm-first, full-stack design, built around their CUD software ecosystem. That creates incredible developer lock-in. They're also cleverly expanding their reach, embedding their tech everywhere.
And Microsoft seems all in on embedding AI everywhere with Copilot.
Microsoft's strategy is pervasive integration. Copilot in everything. Azure AI services, even developing their own custom AI chips like Maya 2. Their real play seems to be systemic lock-in, making tools like Copilot indispensable by weaving them deeply into Azure and the whole Microsoft 365 suite that businesses already use. Plus, they heavily emphasize security and compliance around AI, which enterprises love. The research even cited data showing businesses getting a significant return, like $3.70 back for every $1 invested in Gen AI.
Amazon's using AI to transform its entire stack: customer service, logistics, recommendations.
Exactly. That recommendation engine driving 35% of sales is a prime example. Plus, robotics and fulfillment, AI optimizing last-mile delivery. And they're also trying to democratize AI tools for the sellers on their platform with services like SageMaker.
And Anthropic stands out by focusing heavily on safety and ethics.
Yeah, their constitutional AI approach, building ethical guardrails directly into their models, makes safety a core part of their brand and unique selling point. It differentiates them, attracts enterprise customers wary of risks, and positions them as a leader in responsible AI.
So pulling out the key strategic takeaways from these giants for others, especially founders.
Okay, one dominant strategy is definitely ecosystem lock-in. Integrating AI deeply across hardware, software, cloud. The battle's about making AI pervasive and indispensable within existing platforms. Startups need to figure out how to either integrate with these ecosystems or find defensible niches the giants aren't focused on.
And safety and ethics are becoming actual competitive advantages, not just nice-to-haves.
Absolutely. Prioritizing safety, transparency, ethical development is emerging as a real differentiator. Anthropic proves it can attract investment and build trust, which will only become more valuable as regulations increase. And finally, notice these giants aren't just building cool AI features. They are fundamentally reinventing existing value chains using AI. Amazon reimagining retail and logistics. Microsoft reimagining productivity software. Startups need that same level of ambition, identifying specific value chains and disrupting them deeply with AI, not just building superficial wrappers.
Okay, so bringing this all together into a kind of strategic playbook for startup founders or business leaders, based on everything in this research, what should they be doing?
The research points to several key actions. First, absolutely prioritize AI integration. Adopt an AI-first mindset. Embed it in your core operations from the start. Maybe start small, automate simple tasks to build momentum and confidence, but crucially, empower every employee, bottom up, to experiment with and use AI tools.
Make AI a tool for everyone in the org.
Yes. Second, invest proactively and significantly in upskilling your workforce. We know jobs are changing. Continuous skill acquisition is vital. Remember that IKEA example. Reskilling 8,500 call center reps into AI-assisted interior design advisors actually generated $1.4 billion in new revenue.
Wow, so reskilling isn't just a cost, it can be a revenue driver.
Exactly. It can be a strategic, revenue-generating move. Third, build a strong data foundation and treat it as a strategic moat. We keep saying it. Data is the lifeblood. Competitive advantage increasingly hinges on your access to data, its quality, security, and how you leverage it. In some fields, like healthcare with its unique data sets, that access can be a critical barrier to entry for competitors.
Something unique and hard to copy.
Precisely. Fourth, embrace ethical and responsible AI development from day one. Transparency, fairness, accountability, these aren't just compliance buzzwords. Actively work to mitigate bias, conduct audits, establish clear governance. Building ethically is becoming a competitive edge, giving you a head start in compliance as regulations catch up.
Fifth point.
Crucially, focus on human-AI collaboration. Cultivate those uniquely human skills we talked about. Don't just look at what AI can replace. Look at how it can augment human capabilities. Foster creativity, critical thinking, EQ. The research suggests the biggest wins come from that synergistic work combining human judgment with AI's analytical power. Maintain agility and foster a culture of experimentation. AI tech evolves incredibly fast. You need a culture that embraces continuous testing and learning, adapting quickly. AI is definitely not a set it and forget it kind of technology. And finally, strategically navigate the talent and funding landscapes. Be aware talent clusters in certain hubs like SF. Understand how AI-native startups are changing VC dynamics, that capital efficiency gives them leverage. And recognize that access to unique data, those data moats, can be a massive competitive advantage, maybe even more important than location sometimes.
Okay. This research really paints a picture of a monumental shift unfolding right now and accelerating over the next 3 to 5 years. Profound challenges, yes, but also immense opportunities.
It's clear jobs are being transformed and augmented, not just disappearing wholesale. But it's driven by this incredibly rapid skill change that makes continuous learning absolutely essential for everyone.
And economically, AI looks like a powerful growth engine, boosting productivity, creating new consumer experiences. Though the immediate impact might be a bit slower than the hype suggests because of adoption lags and costs, and we should probably expect slightly higher inflation and interest rates structurally.
Yeah, and for you listening, this research really underscores that AI is fundamentally changing the skills you need, the nature of work itself, and the whole economic landscape around you. Staying informed is key.
And for founders, for businesses, this era looks incredibly fertile. But success requires being strategically agile, building genuinely AI-native models, using AI to enhance people, prioritizing data and ethics, and really committing to that culture of continuous learning and experimentation.
It feels like the future isn't just something that's going to happen to us. It's actively being shaped right now by the choices we all make, individuals, companies, policymakers, around how we integrate and manage AI.
The research definitely suggests the winners, whether they're individuals navigating their careers or businesses charting their course, will be those who lead with foresight, prioritize adaptability, and maintain a fundamentally human-centric approach, even as they embrace this powerful technology. So we've taken quite a journey through some fascinating research on the AI transformation that's really picking up steam. It's clear adaptation is the name of the game, whether you're thinking about your job, your business, or just making sense of the world.
It's a lot to process for sure, but also, incredibly exciting when you think about the positive potential too.
It really is. What's the one thing that stands out most to you from this whole exploration?
Yeah. I think it's remembering that navigating this isn't just about understanding the tech. It's about recognizing which human skills become even more valuable alongside AI. And it's about the strategic choices, both personal and organizational, that will really define who thrives in this new era.
Well said. This has been an episode of Note Lab Mode tailored for you. If you found this valuable, please do share it with someone else who might benefit from digging into this research.
And definitely make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our future explorations of compelling research like this one.